Hey guys, welcome back to Channel Chats. Today I'm excited that we have a scriptwriter to multi-million subscriber YouTubers here to share the script writing tips we need to grow our own channel. We're going to be watching a YouTube video that he wrote that has 1.7 million views today, breaking down the writing techniques of how that was put together to get that many views. So yeah, I'm really happy to have him here. Thanks for being here, Ransom.
Oh, it's great to be here, Greg. Thank you.
My pleasure. And on script writing, let's just jump straight into it. I want to ask you, what are the script writing mistakes that you typically see small YouTubers making that they should avoid making to grow faster in the future?
That's a very good question. One of the main ones I would say, in terms of writing introductions, people often either they're too long, or I would say that, perhaps they don't get to the point. They don't show, what value the viewer is going to get from watching the video. And so people tend to click away in those first few seconds. And then from there, it doesn't really matter how good the rest of it was. They're not going to watch it.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear that a lot from other YouTubers, like the importance of that intro. So, do you mention there stating what is coming in the video, why they should be watching? Is that something you think about when you're writing a script?
I mean, what's coming for sure, but it's more than just like, a preview of what's coming. It's more like what's the payoff? Like what's the exciting thing that someone's going to get out of watching this? At least in the space I'm working in, which should tend to be more educationally oriented videos. It's like, there could be a lot of different videos on this topic. So why is this one worth watching? What's the specific payoff to watch through, however long it may be?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I noticed with this podcast versus other podcasts. When I started this, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't sort of telling people what to expect and what's coming. And that's why I changed the intro that I just ran through to kind of state what value the viewer is going to get from watching the video and for sticking around for 30, 40 minutes because I realized the importance myself in doing that. So really interested to hear you talk about it. And you've worked with Thomas Frank quite a lot. Is this something that he's got, how many subscribers has he got? 1 second. Let's have a look. 2.93 million subscribers right now. Is this something he thinks about a lot when he's writing his scripts? The
Oh,
intro?
yes, I would definitely say so. I would say once we especially get past the research phase and we're into like writing the script, that's a big thing. But ideally, we're trying to keep especially that hook in mind, even from the beginning. So
Hmm.
there'll be some videos where, it might not even make it to production if the concept just isn't strong enough, in terms of the hook.
Cool. Yeah, and I want to dig into intro stuff in more detail later when we're watching
Mhm.
Thomas Frank's video that we're going to be breaking down. But yeah, intros and not approaching intros the right way is a mistake you see smaller YouTubers making. Are there any other mistakes that pop to your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, when you're starting, it can be difficult to figure out, okay, what's the topic, what's going to resonate with my audience. And so it's, natural to understand that people are going to experiment with different things. And I think that's very good. But I think there can also be a mistake in focusing too much just on like, okay, this is what I want to talk about, and then not considering, okay, well, but does anyone care about this? What's the value to the audience there? That's
Hmm.
something I've definitely seen. And I think that can make a big difference. I mean, it's true at all stages, of course, but like particularly when you're starting.
So YouTube is in a sense being selfish, making the
Mm.
videos that they want to make themselves rather than videos that people actually want to see.
Yeah, I suppose that's what you could put it that way for sure.
That's how I put it because I reflect on
Yeah,
my
yeah, selfish is a
time
good
as
word
a
for it.
creator, and I definitely created my channel at the start without thinking about the viewer at all. It's just like what's going to satisfy my creativity, what
Hmm.
can I make that I'm interested in, and that's how I came at YouTube. And you're completely right. There's a lesson to be learned of what you want to make a video on isn't necessarily what people want to see.
Yes, definitely.
And have you come across any ways to find what people want to watch? Like, are you involved in that process?
That's a big question, but yes, yes, definitely. I mean, there's a few different ways we can come about it. I mean, a lot of things, they will start, video concepts will start with like, okay, perhaps there was like an interesting tweet that got a lot of attention or something that like could be, current or relevant.
Mm,
That's certainly a starting point. Yeah, that would
yeah.
be one. Digging into analytics too. I mean, it depends how many videos yours you have up, of course. You can see, okay, what have people liked? And, looking at existing content that's done well certainly is also a way, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of YouTubers that I've had on this podcast talk about doing that, like looking at their old library of content, what has been the outliers, what's performed way better than the rest of their content, and kind of remaking videos on those topics because there's clearly an interest for them.
Oh yeah, and that's something I think about too when working with a new client. Of course, it's useful to see, okay, what are you doing already that's performing well, and is there a way we can emulate that or transfer that into future scripts?
Cool. Oh, that was super useful. Those two things on their own, right? So I want to just jump straight into this video that you've made for Thomas Frank. You've written the video for him. It was 3 years old now on his channel. We'll get his channel up. Okay, cool. So here's the video. 1.7 million views. The 5-hour rule. You wrote this script for Thomas Frank 3 years ago before this went live. And yeah, let's spend this podcast breaking this video down, seeing the script writing techniques that went into it so that the audience can learn from it. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great. So here's the video, the 5-hour rule from Thomas Frank, 1.7 million views to date. Let's watch the intro and then you can kind of talk through the theory of what went into this.
This video is sponsored by Brilliant. The robots are coming. You've read the headlines, of course. You've heard all the hyperbole. The robots are coming, and, well, you'd better batten down the hatches and stock up on the canned beans because they're coming for our jobs. And for some jobs, well, that's absolutely true. The transportation industry, just to give you one example, will largely be powered by self-driving tech in the near future, obviating the need for human drivers. And for something that might hit a bit closer to home for those of you with more desk-bound jobs, there are now algorithms that can even write news reports. In fact, in 2016, the Washington Post's heliograph bot wrote over 850 sports articles. And that was 4 years ago. How long until robots can create convincing online videos? In fact, how do you even know that I'm human? It's not all bad news, though. And don't worry,
Yes.
I'm actually human. I'm not a robot. Like you, I enjoy ingesting organic material, both for enjoyment and refreshment and hydration. Necessary. But more importantly, there is a simple rule that you can follow to ensure that your opportunities for employment and success in your career continue to be plentiful even as automation tech improves and competition for jobs heats up. It's called the 5-hour rule. And in this video, we're going to explain exactly what it is and how you can use it in your own life. But first, let's set the stage with a little story. Hey, Charles, can I trouble you for one of those flashback sounds real quick?
Sure thing.
It's 1978, and all over the world, accounting clerks are recording data.
I love that. I love the little comedy bit with the pianist at the end.
Yes. Oh yeah, he's great.
Cool. So what I was thinking was we have the script for that video, which we can get up in a second. But are there any top level theories or things you think are important to mention now before we drill into the minutiae of the script that we saw there?
It's funny to watch this now, certainly, because it's like we were talking about this a few years ago. Okay, the robots are coming, and of course, this was before the prevalence of Chat GPT and AI becoming much more accessible in terms of all kinds of tools. So it's sort of prophetic in a way, I guess.
Yeah, there's great predictions there.
Yes, but I think we had that idea in mind because we were like, okay, well, we have this 5-hour rule, which we'll get into in the main script in terms of what that actually is. But we're like, okay, that's cool, right? But instead of just saying you should learn for an hour every day, it's like, great, but why? So we're okay, well, how can we make this a little more relevant to people's concerns or the things they're thinking about? And so that was where the angle with the robots are coming for your jobs came in.
Okay, so but that's an interesting thing. Maybe we can drill down in there then. Was relevancy. You sounds like you had a topic to talk about, but you're thinking, how do you make this relevant to as many people as possible? Is that right?
Yes, and I would say relevant to our audience as well, who's concerned with, improving their professional prospects, growing their careers. And of course, self-education fits nicely in there. But yeah, it was important to figure out, okay, how can this be, as you said, as relevant as possible?
And the robots are coming at the very first line that said there. It's a broadly appealing sentence, isn't it? Like a lot of people, well, everyone knows what a robot is, and the fact that they're coming can, in theory, impact everyone on Earth. So a lot of people are going to be affected or pay attention to that opening sentence.
Yes, definitely. And there's just a fun kind of sci-fi nod there too that we liked.
Yeah, reminds me of the British are coming from the War of Independence.
Yes, also certainly.
So yeah, talk us through your approach when you're writing this and why you've made certain decisions and how this comes together.
Sure. I mean, the intro, it always goes through many, many revisions. Length is always a concern, right? We don't want this to be too long. So what we have here is, heavily condensed version. And of course, we tried a lot of different concepts at first. We had, okay, the robots are coming. We've got the AI thing. Within, like, what are some specific examples we can give of that, right? So of course, the transportation industry is one that people have been talking about for a while now. In terms of self-driving vehicles with services like Uber, things like that. And
Okay, so you've mentioned that here. You started talking about the transportation industry here, haven't you?
Mhm.
And that's because, yeah, it's a hot topic. A lot of people are talking about it, so a lot of people will be interested in hearing about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's something, again, as you said, it's relevant to basically everyone's life. So that's the hot topic.
Mm.
But then again, it's like, okay, well, our specific audience, tends to be more, sort of white collar professionals, that kind of thing. So, like, what can we do to bring it back around to that? We're like, oh, okay, well, here's an example, right, with this Washington Post heliograph that's like more knowledge work oriented, right? Because someone might be watching it and think, oh, well, that's fine. I don't drive a cab, so I don't need to worry about that, right? But then we turn right around and we're like, okay, well, you're not safe either.
So you've gone from how AI will affect people in the transportation industry, and then you're talking about how it can also write articles. Is that what you've done there?
Yes, exactly.
So it can impact people in the writing profession.
Yes, the writing
That's yes.
profession and yeah, office knowledge work more generally.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of my feeling there then is what you've kind of done is you said you're trying to it's almost like you're scooping in as much interest as you can at the start. It's like people
Mm.
who are connected to the transportation industry, yeah, get in. You need to be paying attention. People interest who are writers or work in the knowledge industry, this applies to you too. Is that fair to say that you're kind of attaching it to as many people as possible here, or big groups of people?
Yeah, I guess that's fair to say. Sure.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's brilliant. This is something I've been learning about throughout the course of this podcast is um, how to not cut off your potential viewers, like go
Yes.
too niche and too narrow. And this is a perfect representation of that as broad appealing the video as possible, getting in these big groups of interested people at the start. It's a really cool tactic that you use, the technique. Yeah, let's carry on through and see what else pops out to you.
Sure. So yeah, then I mean, in this last bit here, we have kind of a transition. I mean, it is still the introduction, but there's definitely a change in tone, and we have that little,
Mm,
glitchy robot dip, the comedy, definitely. And so this
cool.
this is sort of a transition point, right? We're okay. We have this intro, we put people, and now it's like, okay, what are we actually going to talk about in this video, and why should you care, right? So
Mhm.
we have, there's a simple rule, right? That's like a good starting point. It's like, okay, well, what could that simple rule be? And then we get the payoff there. Ensure your opportunities for employment and success in your career are plentiful, even as automation tech continues to improve and competition for jobs gets more intense. We've got, again, another angle there too, right? Um,
Got you. So, what stood out to me there when you explained that is it fair to say that the 5 hour rule, there's an element of mystery around that? Like, what is the 5 hour rule?
yes, exactly. It's a simple rule. It's a 5 hour rule, but yeah, what is that?
Mhm.
Definitely.
Okay, so this line here, it's called the 5 hour rule, and in this video, we'll be covering what it is and how to use it. So that's where you're establishing the payoff, right? Is that like you mentioned
Yes,
earlier?
yes,
The video
definitely.
is going to explain what the 5 hour rule is
Yeah,
because
if
you
you
don't
watch
yet
through
know
this,
what
if
it
you
is.
stick around, this is what you'll get. Exactly.
Okay. And what was the importance of this section, did you say, that when you were talking about opportunities for employment and success in your career? Um,
Well, I was just saying it's a point of transition, and then it also kind of takes the idea, right, that, like, if you look at that next part of the sentence, the even as automation tech improves and competition for jobs get more intense, right? So it's like you also capture the idea of, if someone's, let's say, they're really skeptical about AI, right? They're like, oh well, I'm
mhm,
not going to worry about that, right? It's like, well, even if you're not concerned about that, the competition for jobs is getting more intense. I think in the video he actually says it a little more explicitly, which is that it's like we're in a globalized work environment, right? People can work remotely. You're not just competing against people in your city or your country. It's like the whole world potentially for jobs.
mhm.
So how do you stay ahead? And the 5 hour rule is the answer to that.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, so my understanding of this so far, and I really like how this has been structured, is we've got the hook at the start, the robots are coming, and then this is kind of like I don't know what language you use, but to me it seems kind of like an extended hook. Like this is gonna if you're in this industry, it's going to impact you, and if you're in this industry, it's also going to impact you. It's kind of it's capturing more and more people's attention as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have said, well, don't worry, there is a positive to this, an upside, or a way that you can navigate through this. Then you've kind of said what the solution is, but because it's just the name of a solution, not the actual solution, there's enough curiosity and ambiguity to keep people watching.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And would you say, is that structure of like hook and then establish the payoff that's going to come in the video and maybe a little bit of curiosity there? Is that kind of a structure that you often follow, or is that unique to this video?
I would say, yeah, it's pretty often with Thomas's videos. That's something we've tried to follow. It certainly depends on the topic. If the topic is perhaps more technical, right? If it's like an app kind of roundup, it might be a little different, right? But yeah, for videos, I would say where we're introducing this kind of cool learning concept or rule or technique. But yeah, that's a pretty similar structure across those.
Great. So hook at the start and then move on to establishing the payoff that's going to come in the video and why, and the fact that people should watch the video and keep watching, and you mix in a little bit of curiosity there too. Awesome. Well, that's super interesting. Sorry, were you going to add something then?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if we wanted to move into that next section, there's something I could say about that transition as well, and this story.
Definitely, yeah, the transition from the intro to the next section of the video.
Yeah, well, and just also how, because this next story was one we found in the research process. I think Thomas found it. Was like, I like this a lot. It was a great example of like how technology changes things, but not always in the way people would think, in terms of the job landscape. So we thought, okay, the flashback thing would be kind of fun to do, right? It's like, oh, it's 1978 all over the world, right? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's definitely borrowing ideas from like kind of documentary filmmaking there. I think so. But
yeah. Well, yeah, it was really creative, and maybe that can bring us on to the next question I wanted to ask you, because that was a really creative, interesting moment that was added into the video. And we'll be back with more tips from successful YouTubers on how to get more views on YouTube after this quick break. But quickly, check out this Forbes article stating that YouTube ad revenue is down by up to 90% this year. I mean, if we jump over to my analytics, you can see 12 months ago I was making £652 per month, and 12 months later I'm down to earning less than 50% of that at just £264 per month. And I'm seeing this with the clients that I work with too. This is a big problem. YouTubers are just not earning the amounts they were from ad revenue. And as I speak to more YouTubers on this podcast, they time and time again mention memberships as a reliable, recurring way for YouTubers to earn an income outside of relying on YouTube ad revenue. Here is Jevon Dovy's membership area, for example. He was a guest on this podcast a few months ago, and we can see down here, he's charging $29 a month for access to his membership. So if he just gets 100 of his YouTube viewers to sign up for this, he's now making an additional $29 a month from his YouTube viewers outside of relying on YouTube ad revenue. Yoga with Adrienne is doing the same thing here with her membership site, Find What Feels Good. They've both built their membership sites using today's sponsor, Uscreen, who last year paid out $150 million to creators through membership subscriptions. Crazy. Uscreen gives you premium video hosting, like all of the videos Jevon has uploaded to his membership area, what we can see on screen here. You can even turn that membership area into a branded app, just like Yoga with Adrienne has done here, so that her members can access her video content using whatever device they're currently on. If we jump over to Brandon's membership area, who was also on this podcast, we can see that in his membership area, he is giving his members access to live streams with him every so often. And also there is a private community hosted within his membership site. Community and live streams being two other things that you can do on your membership area that you build using Uscreen. Uscreen knows that the idea of creating your own membership space can be intimidating for YouTubers, and that's why they provide these three things. They pair you with a dedicated success manager who talks you through an exact step-by-step plan of how much revenue you can expect to earn from your membership area and the exact effort required to get your membership space up and running. They've created a resource hub called Membership Plus to help you learn and grow your membership, packed full of video lessons, live workshops with expert creators, and the opportunity to just connect with other creators building a membership like you are. You can join up to that by clicking the link in the description to this video. And finally, if you have a membership already on another platform, then they'll migrate all of your content and your members from that platform over to Uscreen for you. Uscreen stands out to me because memberships is all they do. They're specifically laser focused in making it easy for creators to easily launch memberships. So if you're a YouTuber or video creator interested in creating your own membership, go check them out. The link to them is in the description to this video, and tell them that Greg sent you. A problem I often experience with my videos, and I see a lot of other educational creators talk about themselves, is watch time and keeping people interested and make, in their information and making their educational videos interesting. So I kind of wonder if that's something you think about when you're writing your scripts, and is that scripted in to the scripts of strategies to keep people watching and making it sort of exciting and entertaining?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would say, as you said, that's like a big struggle with educational content. It's certainly something we've had issues with, in past videos, and it's still an ongoing concern. But yeah, as the channel has evolved, the focus has definitely been more on, okay, we have this information we want to present, and like it's easy to find that, right? But like, exactly, how do we make it entertaining? How do we make it interesting? This idea, this sort of edutainment kind of concept, right? Where you're balancing the two. And so, yeah, a story like this, it's like we could have just said, essentially, oh, well, spreadsheets were invented, but it wasn't actually that bad because it created more jobs. And so, whatever.
Yeah,
so that's not that
just pure information, nothing else.
Yeah. And that's, of course, that's a pretty extreme example. I'm not saying that people are necessarily writing scripts like that. But yeah, that's the idea, right? Is that we need like a more interesting, story to approach that. But of course, also, it can't be too long, right? It can't be too rambling. It needs to get back to the point eventually. And so, yeah, this section, which you can see too, it combines, the story, but then there's like some statistics as well that kind of back it up. So there's an element of authority and proof there.
So what have we got? It's 1978, and all over the world, accounting clerks are recording data in spreadsheets. So you've gone into story mode here, haven't you, rather than information dump?
Very much.
Awesome. Except these spreadsheets are written on paper. Even a small recalculation can require hours. So you kind of introduced a problem there, or like an inefficiency. That's awesome, and really interesting to hear you talk about how you are using storytelling here within an educational video to keep people interested. I think that's a really powerful strategy. Are there any other sort of strategies or techniques that you use within either Thomas's or other educational content that you script for that kind of helps keep it interesting and can keep people watching? I know that the viewers here struggle with maximizing their attention and their watch time. So yeah, have you got any things that you fall back on normally?
Yeah, in terms of falling back on, that's a good question. I would say, yeah, I mean, we talk about like novelty, for example, right? It's like, okay, well, this is like exciting to the brain, right? To be like, oh, look at this cool concept, and especially if you can kind of try to tease that a little bit, but then, you deliver that payoff and people are like, oh, wow, I just learned something, essentially, is kind of the feeling we're trying to go for, but like in an exciting way,
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I'm watching a boring lecture because I have to, we don't need the opposite of that.
So when you say novelty, is it something kind of that people wouldn't normally see or hear about, like something a bit unique? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that can take different forms, but yeah, I would say in terms of like, this, for example, this kind of, self-education video, right? It's like people know, okay, well, I should be reading or I should be improving myself in that way. But, that's kind of vague, right? But it's like here we're saying, oh, well, you could spend an hour a day just doing that, 5 days a week. And that's like something that would be beneficial because look, here are examples of other successful people who have done that, right? That was kind of the original concept that we get into. And then the rest of it is just sort of how do you practically do that, right? But it's like the video could have just been that, right? And that's like kind of the video equivalent of just like a list post, right? Like, which is much less interesting.
100%, yeah. And as an educational creator myself, it's so easy to just fall back on the idea of making a list video, but that's something I'm trying to move away from doing.
I totally understand that. And it's certainly true. Sometimes the concept might start that way, and then we're okay. We can't just do that. We need like a better story here to tie this together, or to present these ideas.
100%, because every YouTuber on the platform is trying to make a list video. Like,
Mhm.
you're not doing anything unique or separating yourself from the crowd there. So yeah, people, I think they just get bored if they start watching a list video.
Yeah, it's
Um,
boring, and it's very played out, I would say.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So novelty, make helping people feel like they've learned something new and interesting is one strategy to keep people watching and interested in educational content. And I guess that kind of factors into the idea stage in the first place. Like,
Hmm.
YouTubers should be thinking of what is something actually novel and interesting I can make my video about, so that people want to watch it in the first place.
Yes, yes, I would say that the idea phase and then the research phase also that plays a big role. That's something I'm thinking about a lot, certainly.
Hmm.
Whether it's like, okay, we need to go out and find something that's more interesting, or maybe there's something we had in our back pocket, or that we were talking about that we can pull out for that purpose.
100%. Yeah. Um, in terms of other things for that keep people watching and keep the video interesting, I spotted when I was watching the video earlier, scene changes. So we see in the
Yes.
script here on camera, but Thomas is now at the park. Um, is that something? Am I right in assuming that is a way that you're keeping the video interesting?
Very much. Yes, you'd be correct in assuming that. I will say, just for the sake of transparency, those aren't always things that I add necessarily. Some of these were put in later, during the editing phase. But
Okay.
usually, how it'll work is, okay, I might have an idea at least, right? Okay, maybe we could do a shot like this. And of course, you know, some things are and aren't practical. It just depends on the production schedule. But yeah, I'll generally try to at least suggest, you know, what I had in mind. Oh, it would be cool to show B-roll of this, like as you were saying in that the section about the spreadsheet, right? We have this like vintage, 70s footage, like something like that.
Yeah, B-roll and location changes, 100%. So yeah, I was interested in what the relationship is there between the scriptwriter and the YouTuber with making some of those creative
Mhm.
choices.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
YouTube
interesting to
and the editor too, for what it's worth. We have an excellent editor as well, so a lot of that is his stuff too.
for the B-roll choices
Yeah,
and
for the
yeah,
B-roll, and I mean just the whole presentation. Yeah, final video, of course.
yeah, cool, makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Has anything else come to mind of sort of things you're conscious of when you're writing this to keep it interesting?
I guess something else I kind of briefly touched on, but we try if we can to make like for example, later on we have this talking about the 5 hour rule, right? Okay, this is something that Benjamin Franklin did. So if there's like if you can pull in elements of I don't want to necessarily say celebrity, although that can certainly work
Uh-huh.
too, but like famous figures or people that the audience would look up to or respect, and if you can find a way to tie the video into that can certainly be helpful too, keeping people watching or just making it aspirational in a way too.
Yeah, anchoring it into popular figures, or
Yes,
well,
that's a good word for it.
yeah, that's really interesting. Like, here's not just something that you should know about or you could be doing, but this person also does it too.
Mhm.
And you know what? I don't know. Let me get it up for a second. I'm curious to see if I'm right here. I'm pretty sure that I saw a video on Thomas's YouTube channel. I think this may even be how I found his channel in the first place years ago. Was it?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
Time
yes.
boxing, Elon Musk's time management method. So he's doing the same thing there, isn't he? He's
Yes, yes, definitely.
talking about a concept but attaching it to someone well known that uses it to get more interest.
Mhm.
That's such a clever strategy. And it's funny, I kind of realized that he did it. I think I subconsciously realized that that's what was done, like Thomas had done here, like borrowed off the recognition of Elon Musk, but I never thought about using that in my script writing. So that's really interesting to hear that you do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's something I'm working with another client at the moment where that's been a big part of the process as well.
Uh-huh.
That they've specifically requested. I think it depends on your audience, of course. You ideally want to pick someone that the audience would find interesting or relevant. Particularly, like if you even look at that earlier one, like Richard Feynman, perhaps certainly not as well known of a figure, but like to our audience who's kind of more interested in, I mean, a nerdy audience for lack of a better word, right? Um,
Hmm.
Someone like that, would be intriguing as well.
I think that's something I'm going to start using more on my channel. Whenever I want to talk about a topic, or I think it's important to educate my audience on a topic, think about, okay, who well known uses these techniques that I'm going to be teaching about in this video and present it that
Yes.
way.
And especially if you could combine that with an element of novelty, right, or surprise. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know that this person did this, right? Like that's even more intriguing.
Yeah. Oh, Ransom, that's such a cool. You're sparking so many ideas now with that tip.
I'm glad to
That
hear.
was so interesting. So now I want to get on to the hot topic of AI.
Mm.
Obviously, as a scriptwriter, I'm seeing it a lot, and I'm sure you're seeing it a lot. People are falling onto AI to do script writing for them.
Mm.
What's your opinion on using AI for YouTube script writing and people that are
Oh,
doing
that's a
it?
great question. It's perfect timing too, because I was just reading several articles about this yesterday. Different, not about YouTube specifically, but just about using AI for writing and the impacts it might have. In my opinion, I mean, certainly, I will say in the past, I was more of like an AI hater. I was just like totally opposed to using it. I don't want to hear about it. But I've certainly
It's to be
changed my
expected.
opinion. You know,
Oh, you've changed your opinion.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I was going to say I have. I mean, I certainly wouldn't advocate that people use it to write their entire script. Don't just say I want to write a script about this, and then produce it. But I think there can be a lot of practical uses for it if you view it as more of like the term I've heard people use is like think of it as having like an intern, right, or a research assistant. So I
Mm,
would say for the research process, it can be immensely helpful. For finding sources, even for just doing editing tasks, right? And I'm even working with a client at the moment where they've used it, on my work to kind of point out some things that they liked or just to analyze different
okay.
aspects of it and, to see if it's like fitting the goals that they have set out. So I think it can be quite useful, I guess, in some.
Yeah, and you mentioned some interesting things there, like a client was using AI to kind of examine work that you've
Yeah,
done.
so it was, I mean, the case was, I guess, for a more specific example, one thing we were kind of like, that they wanted, okay, I want a little more, scientific evidence, right, to back up the claims we're making here. And so they had asked ChatGPT, can you give me sources that would, support ideas in this script? And it like suggested some.
Wow,
And,
that's amazing.
they're not always great. You definitely still have to vet them and, use critical thinking to make sure that the sources are legitimate and that they would make sense. But yeah, just being able to find that as opposed to like the old process of just Googling whatever, right? Or maybe going on Google Scholar and, trying to find some articles that way. I think it's a
Mm.
much more efficient process.
Yeah, way quicker, and it's also doing part of the creative work there because whereas before you'd have to go through the script yourself and hope to be inspired that you'd
Mm-hmm.
find a moment where sources or references could be added or metaphors could be added. The AI is now doing that for you, finding those moments where you can add sources.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Anything else come to mind?
I mean, there are some more mundane things, frankly, just in terms that have helped me as a writer, just, formatting things, in bullets or just getting the text to look the way you want it, in terms of the script. I would love to experiment with, perhaps more specific ways to do that, right? If, having a template, for example, that you could just have it generate for you, but I haven't really played with that just yet.
Mm. Yeah, there's probably a way to do those advanced things with AI. Like I had a guest on here the other week who is just rooted in AI. He's just immersed in it, and he uses it for his channel, and he makes content on AI. And I'm sure he has some really advanced prompts that he can just copy and paste in now, and he kind of templates them. I'm not quite there yet, and it sounds like you're
Yeah,
not there
I'm not yet,
yet.
but I'm definitely making a big reading list, things to dig into to learn more and follow
Yeah,
some blogs related to that. So yeah, I'm excited, I would say overall for the possibilities there.
that's awesome. That's really interesting to hear. And you mentioned ChatGPT as an app that you feel can be beneficial for script writing. Are there any other AI apps that you're aware of, or is that the primary one that you know of at this point?
I mean, that's the only one I have experience with personally, so I can't make comments about any others at the moment.
Gotcha. Yeah, me too. I've used it on my channel. I actually used it for, you mentioned curiosity gaps earlier on. I realized, that my videos were really missing uh, the element of curiosity and
Hmm.
getting people sort of excited or curious about what's to come next. So a prompt that I started playing with ChatGPT was just find moments in the script where curiosity gaps can be added, and it was surprisingly amazing at it. It was so better than I
Okay.
was at that stage of doing that stuff. Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's excellent.
powerful. I'm jumping into it on this channel feet first. I'm going to be making videos with it and just trying to help YouTubers understand how they can um, speed up their process, whether it's the ideas or the script writing process, and then later on like editing and all that other stuff too. So yeah, keen to hear that. Interesting to hear that you see benefits there and value in the script writing part of YouTube channel production and management. So
Yeah.
great to hear. Awesome. Well, you clearly have done great work with Thomas Frank. I know that you're working with other clients, but you do offer script writing as a service, don't you, Ransom?
Yes, that is
So
correct.
I'm going to get your website up where people can find you and make inquiries and into your services and contact you. But do you maybe want to talk through your services quickly before we finish that and what you provide for YouTubers?
Yes, certainly. So at the moment, I offer, I would say, three core services. I have research services. So if someone, wants to write their own scripts, but they just need help getting started with like a researched outline, I can assist them with that. I can also do full script writing from start to finish, research phase to the final draft.
Awesome.
And then the final one is more related just to content writing. If people have videos that they like to turn into articles for their websites, I can also do that.
Yeah, all super useful and valuable services. The research in particular, I mean, you've already mentioned earlier about the importance of novelty and researching the right stuff that's going to perform well in your videos. So I guess you're keeping that in mind when you're doing research with people, and you have that kind of trained eye when you're looking into this stuff as a scriptwriter.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds super. That sounds so useful. And script writing too. So yeah, people just come to your website, click the button to get a quote, and I think I contacted you when I reached out to get you on this podcast through your website too. So there's a way to chat to you on there too. So yeah, anyone watching this, hit up Ransom, and if you need help with your script writing, there's links to his website in the description to this video. You'll see his services, his portfolio over here, an amazing testimonial from Thomas Frank, who we have been looking at today as content. So definitely worth it. Definitely check him out. Yeah, shout out Thomas. If he ever sees this video, very unlikely, but that'd be great if he does. Amazing. Well, Ransom, I'm so happy you came on. I really appreciate you giving me some time. And that was I found that so valuable and interesting and educational as a YouTuber, and I'm sure people watching this will too. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Craig. This was excellent.
Yeah, this is an area I really need to brush up on, is script writing, and I think most people starting out on YouTube do too, and they don't even think about this stuff. So I've really enjoyed it. All right, guys, thanks for watching another episode of Channel Chats. There'll be another great guest just like Ransom on the next episode to help you grow and succeed on YouTube and push through those challenges you're experiencing. So thanks for watching as always. Leave your comments in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.